And now to Afghanistan, where today the Taliban claimed responsibility for that brazen attack we told you about last night, a failed attempt to storm the largest NATO base in southern Afghanistan. Several coalition troops were wounded. The Taliban finances much of its operations by selling opium, which is grown from poppies, which are right now being harvested. So here's the question: why are American troops now helping Afghan farmers grow that opium? Nick Schifrin reports from Afghanistan on a controversial new policy.
Over the past week, Obama's disgusting plot with Muslim terrorists was discovered that could go down as the biggest scandal in United States history. We learned that in order to appease Iran, Obama derailed efforts by the FBI and DEA to prosecute Hezbollah drug trafficking and money laundering operations out of fears that prosecuting them would disrupt his treasonous nuclear deal with Iran. Now disturbing new information is coming out about what Obama also did for ISIS terrorists, that igniting new calls for him to be brought up on charges of treason. We all suspected for a while that Obama was purposefully putting dangerous arsenal into the hands of ISIS terrorists after learning about his gun-running scheme in Libya, where he armed the Free Syrian Army, who was later discovered to be the front group of ISIS. But now unbelievable evidence of Obama deliberate treason is being revealed after a rogue investigator is breaking rank to reveal startling new dirt on the former president. Conservative Daily Post reports, "It's no accident that U.S.-supplied weapons made it into the hands of ISIS," says anti-war activist Cindy Sheehan. She places blame squarely at the feet of Obama's CIA. His CIA wanted the weapons to get into the hands of the extremists, she declares. Sheehan thinks it was part of Obama's plan to destabilize the Middle East and control resources. International Arms Monitor, Conflict Armament Research, examined 40,000 recovered weapons left behind by retreating ISIS troops since 2014. In a report described as the most comprehensive to date about how the Islamic State obtained and fielded its weapons, they note that one batch of U.S. military weapons covertly supplied to extremist Syrian rebels were being used by ISIS only 2 months after delivery. According to Sheehan, it is unlikely that ISIS outsmarted U.S. intelligence. Think it is incorrect to assume that the CIA is losing control of its weapons. It seems much more likely that Washington and the CIA wanted the Daesh forces in Syria to have control of many U.S.-supplied heavy weapons, including missiles. Conflict Armament Research has had field investigators combing the battlefields across everywhere ISIS held a position in Iraq and Syria since 2014. Tagging along with government and local fighting forces, they study every piece of the ordnance they can locate. But it didn't just stop at weapons. Even chemical agents used to make explosives were also sent to ISIS. Weapons, ammunition, even chemicals used to make explosives are all sifted through and catalogued. The findings they just released show that often, weapons shipped to local groups have the unexpected result of benefiting the enemy. The unauthorized transfer of munitions that were originally intended to benefit groups fighting in an already chaotic and violent environment eventually found their way to ISIS. Obama covert operation worked to arm moderate Syrian rebels battling President Bashar al-Assad. Some of those arms included rockets that were recovered in Iraq, paid for by the United States and then shipped to Syrian groups. In one instance, PG-9 73mm rockets, sold by Romanian arms manufacturers to the U.S. Army in 2013 and 2014, were found sprinkled across both battlefields. Containers with matching lot numbers were found in eastern Syria and recovered from an Islamic State convoy in the Iraqi city of Fallujah, the report states. This is just the tip of the iceberg of new evidence of Obama outright treason against our country. In addition to learning about Obama's direct involvement with arming ISIS, and also how he protected Hezbollah drug trafficking and money laundering operations by derailing active investigations by both the FBI and DEA, Obama also allowed the Taliban to become the world #1 producer in heroin so they have money to fund future terror attacks on America and the West. Obama worked alongside the Taliban in Afghanistan to ensure that the terror group would become the world top leader in heroin, where their enterprise is now generating billions of dollars for the terror group to carry out their operations against the West. The Taliban in Afghanistan has spent over a decade funding their operations from opium farms and their mass production of heroin. This was able to take place under the Obama administration, which refused to target their illicit operations. Obama allowed the Taliban to become the world's top producer of heroin, generating billions for the terrorist outfit, conservative Daily Post reported. Political commentator and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer said in light of these startling new details, that Barack Hussein Obama needs to be immediately arrested for his crimes against America. If a company did this, a CEO would be in jail right now, he stated on a recent segment on Fox News. Aiding and abetting the enemy of the United States is the textbook definition of treason, which is exactly what Obama did for the past 8 years. Thanks to Obama, not only has ISIS risen to power with a massive stash of American weapons they now have at their disposal, but the Taliban and Hezbollah have a multi-billion-dollar drug enterprise they are now using to fund terrorism against the West. It's time for President Trump to crack the whip and go after Obama with a vengeance. Show the world what happens to traitors who sell us down the river in order to further his cause for terrorists who want to destroy America and every citizen of this.
We're putting the harshest, strongest, most stringent sanctions on Iran. I hope to be able to make a deal with them. A good deal, a fair deal, a good deal for them, better for them, better for them. But we cannot allow them to have nuclear weapons. We must be able to go to a site and check that site. We have to be able to go into their military bases to see whether or not they're cheating.
That was the president earlier saying the United States of America must never, ever allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. Here with reaction, he is the host of CRTV, Levin's TV. He is the host right here of the #1 show, Sunday nights, 10 p.m. and all of cable, Life, Liberty, and Levin. And I call him the great one, Mark Levin. You know, one day I'm going to put you on and talk about the story. I forced you to do radio. Let's be honest about this. I don't want to do it. And I made you fill in for me and made you work for free for a year on weekends. And that's one of the highlights of my career, my friend. How are you?
And see that? The world's never been different.
Listen, Mark, when I read The Judge on Friday, I thought of you. Years ago, you wrote an incredible book. It's called Men in Black. And you wrote the Liberty Amendments recently, and an American tyranny. What's Liberty versus Tyranny?
So many of them.
Okay. No, these are all great books because you're a constitutional scholar. You see what is happening. You heard what that judge said Friday. They're putting the screws to Manafort. It has nothing to do with collusion. They want him to sing. Be careful, because he may not just sing, he may compose. And I was proud of that judge because that judge nailed it. And now you see Sarah Carter's report tonight. Comey and Mueller coordinating? Tell me why this is so wrong, and the audience.
Well, let's hope the judge is not just a gas bag and actually does something about what he said. Let's drag us all back, if we will, for a few minutes to the Constitution, okay? Because that's the bottom line, and this is where it's going to wind up. And the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General really have to answer some fundamental questions about this investigation. Mr. Mueller wants to interview the president, and he wants to interview him under the most onerous circumstances. What is the purpose of an interview like that based on those 49 general areas? His purpose is to indict the president. Now, what's the purpose of indicting the president? To try the president and to find him guilty. What's the purpose of a conviction? It's to remove the president of the United States from office. That's the bottom line. No president has ever been indicted while in office. Not one. No president has ever been forced before a federal grand jury. Not one. No president has ever been removed from office by the United States Senate and 2/3 vote of the Senate. Not one. Mueller's purpose, his purpose, is to remove the president. That means one man, got it, that means one man, one jury would usurp the power, the entire constitutional power of Congress, the power to remove a president. You can indict every other public official, a judge, for instance, while they're in office, and go through the impeachment process. You cannot do it with a president. And I'm going to tell you, I've been studying this for decades. I'm studying it now. Here's the authoritative book. So what's going on now? It takes 2/3 of the Senate to remove a president. Not one prosecutor, not one jury. So my question is, from a constitutional perspective, To Attorney General Jeff Sessions, it's time to step up. To the Deputy Attorney General, it's time to pay attention. To the entire country, to all the lawyers you bring on here, this that is going on here now, these fights over whether he's going to be subpoenaed the president, whether he's going to answer questions, whether he can be indicted in office. I want people to understand that the framers never even contemplated what's going on today. They never contemplated that one prosecutor, a civil servant, a bureaucrat appointed by somebody else, would have the power to effectively remove the President of the United States. The reason why the Democrats are hanging their hat on Mueller, the reason why the media are hanging their hat on Mueller, they'll never get 2/3 in the Senate to remove this president. I don't care if they impeach him. They'll never get 2/3. It's never happened before. So what they're hoping to do is trap him in this notion of a subpoena and questioning, indict him, try and humiliate him, try and force him in front of a court, hope that they get the Supreme Court on their side, which I doubt they will, but you never know with these courts, and then get him to resign. That's their game plan. You heard it here first. This is very, very important. From a constitutional perspective, as I speak, Mr. Mueller is undermining the Constitution. He's not upholding the rule of law, whether he's consulting with Comey or consulting with Nostradamus. My point is this. What's going on right now is anti-constitutional and is undermining our system. The framers wanted the body politic to decide on whether or not to remove one branch of government, just as the body politic put that person there in the first place. The media are too ignorant, they're too liberal, they're too obsessed to understand this, but I'm hoping tonight with a few minutes here the American people will.
You know, I call you the great one. One of the best things or greatest accomplishments of my life was convincing you to fill in for my radio show. And it did take convincing. It wasn't easy. Mark, your knowledge of our framers and our founders and our Constitution is second to nobody. These words tonight are